Hi, my name is John Barley from Rite New Zealand Limited. On this episode, we're going to be talking about, are we on the right track to understand how IT can actually provide growth opportunities for a business? Do we have a closed mind to the opportunities that IT can actually provide? I'd also invite you to stay and watch the part following this video where you're going to be introduced to the opportunity of registering for the Right Track newsletter. So we're going to be talking to Daniel, but I just thought I'd summarize as well the topics that we're going to be looking at in this video. We're going to be looking at IT versus the communication industry. Is information technology an industry all of its own, or is it actually a subset of the communication industry? We're also going to look at the necessity of understanding the strategy of a business. Do the strategies of a business actually characterize the business and also characterize the demands placed upon the IT systems? We're also going to look at how it is so necessary to be in front of the IT requirements of a business, so then there is time to see the opportunities for growth within a business. The other point that we're going to be asking Daniel about is whether it is easier to actually use IT as an opportunity for the business to have growth. And to do that, we need to understand what the data is actually telling us and understand the story that is actually coming out from that data. So we invite you to follow on and meet with Daniel and listen to his various stories and his take on information technology and how it can be a wonderful opportunity for business growth. So let's join Daniel. Thank you. Bye. Hello, ladies and gentlemen. My name is John Barley from Right Track New Zealand Limited. I'm here talking to Mr. Daniel Bowen, who is from America, but he has been living in New Zealand for the past 15 years, and he's based down in Wellington. So Daniel is an IT specialist, and the reason why I've contacted Daniel is to talk to him about why he believes it is necessary to be creative with IT and not see it as a negative element in business, but to see it as a positive element within business. So let's just first of all introduce Daniel to you all, and I'll just go through the brief notes that we've put together in the past few hours. So Daniel's background, and Daniel's going to correct me if I'm wrong on this anyway. So Daniel's background is he's American and he's from, is it Sarcosa, Florida?
Oh, Sarasota.
Okay, and you went to the University of South Florida, and I would assume you did a degree in IT there somewhere.
No, actually, no, I studied English.
Okay, we will come back to that because that's a real interesting point, because I spoke to another IT person on just that same thing. Why does somebody who has done English get into the world of IT? And it's quite an interesting connection. So we'll come back to that. So you've been a sales manager for DTS Limited here in New Zealand from 2007 to 2016. And a marketing and communications coordinator for Greyhounds as Pets New Zealand. And you're still in that role. You're now working as a sales manager for Layer 3, which is a Wellington-based company. And Layer 3 looks at and are experts in proactive systems looking at the network management, desktop and server support, gateway and endpoint security, business continuity, IP phone systems, infrastructure and services, and public cloud security. So,
Mouthful.
yeah, it's a bit of a mouthful, but that's okay. I've got the list. So, what I'm going to be aiming at in this conversation, Daniel, is to find out why you believe it is necessary for IT to be in that creative environment. That's one. But two, I want you to tell us your story, your specific story, as to how the world of IT can be of value and importance to a business in its ability to be creative and proactive. So, and I'm also fascinated, we'll also go back on the subject of English being a necessary component of being in the IT world. That's a really important part. And I'm fascinated about business continuity and how is IT so important for business continuity.
Yeah. And all of these things that we're talking about, they're all really important. They're often all tied together and they evolve over time. So the conversation that, I might have with you now about business continuity, probably very different than the conversation I might have had with you, on that a year or 2 years ago.
Yeah.
Things change quickly, and, the ability to adapt and be agile is all important.
Yeah. So tell us your story, Daniel. Why is your story so valuable to business owners, specifically in these times when they need to be able to pivot and to be creative to create something different?
Yeah, sure. So I'll start off with a very simple sentence that we tell all of our clients, and that is that IT should be about possibilities, not problems. Too often, I think people, both providers and clients, think about IT in terms of support, right? You think of IT when something breaks. You don't think of it otherwise. And the problem with that is that if you're focused on problems, if you're focused on support, you're focused on problems. Problems don't get you anywhere except holding you back. Even if you're thinking about proactively stopping problems before they happen, your focus is still on the problem itself. You're not looking ahead. At best, you're aiming to tread water. And IT technology should be about so much more than that. There's a whole world of advancement out there that's just waiting to be put to use. And too many business owners, whether it's small, medium business owners, or even management and larger organizations, you've got so much on your desk to get through every day that you don't have time to go scouring the possibilities of the world, trying to find something that you can put to use within your own organization. And so it really needs to fall on, the professionals that you engage to help you with this stuff, to kind of put those possibilities in front of you. IT will turn into a dead weight that you're pulling along behind you if you let it, right? Because everything just turns into a life cycle where your things are useful or it's time to be replaced. Things are working or things are not working. On one hand, that's boring. It's mind-numbingly boring. And on another hand, you're not getting anywhere. And if you think about your average day, you have so many things demanding headspace from you. And there's only so much headspace that you have, to split up between all of the needs that you have during your day. There's very little room left, very little energy left to actually think like, right, what can I do that's new? You just want to get through your day. You want to do a good job at what you're doing. right? But you don't have the time or the energy to go out there looking for new ideas. And that's really a shame, because there are so many good new ideas out there to be had. And so as a company, Layer 3, we kind of sat down and decided that we didn't want to just fix computers, and we didn't want to just stop computers from breaking proactively either. We wanted to help our clients get in front of IT and, try and put some carrots in front of them that might, be useful to the business. Now that's all well and good to say, right? But unless you're going to do it haphazardly and disjointedly, you actually have to have a plan to do this. It has to be systematic in our approach. So what we decided first and foremost was that we needed to make IT about strategy, not support, but strategy. I'll tell you what. So we saw a report that came out of the United States, and it was a survey of U.S. enterprise level board members. And if you can imagine, the size and scope of a U.S. enterprise grade board, that's pretty good size. So, like most of the world, we take our cues from what's happening in the U.S. And so I read this survey with interest, and it covered a whole range of topics, but two things really stuck out at me, two questions. The first one was, I'm going to paraphrase here, but basically they were asking the board, the participating board members, what is the single most important question facing the board tomorrow? And out of like the top 10 answers, the number one answer was essentially digital transformation, cybersecurity, and and your technology strategy. And then the follow-up question was, what is the single most underrepresented skill in the boardroom today? Exact same answer: digital transformation, cybersecurity, and technology strategy. So basically, the idea was that the biggest challenge facing them tomorrow is what they're least prepared to deal with today. So I looked at that, and it actually was kind of like a moment where, something just went off, and I thought, right, well, if these people with the resources that they have at hand are still so underprepared for the biggest challenge that they recognize as, coming down the road for them, then how are, small, medium sized clients in New Zealand going to deal with this stuff? And we thought, okay, so this has to mean something for us here. And what that meant was we really needed to introduce strategy as a key component of any IT service. And so that's what we did. We kind of retooled ourselves to make strategy our spirit animal. Everything comes out from strategy, right? Instead of saying like, well, here's our antivirus, and here's whatever cloud tool we use. All of that is going to be secondary to having a strategy first.
You mentioned spirit, the spirit of the strategy. Was that your term?
Strategy is our spirit animal.
Explain that.
Okay, so it's kind of like an Native American thing where in Native American culture, they believe in the idea of a spirit animal, and it's kind of like your personal totem, right? So what's core? What represents you? So in the idea of the animal world, your spirit animal would be whatever animal, characteristics represented you best. Mm-hmm. So getting a little liberal with that, just saying that, strategy is our spirit animal, and that when it comes down to it, we want to be represented by the idea of strategy more than anything else.
Let me ask you, what was your spirit animal?
What was it before?
Yeah.
I don't know that we had one. I think that, like many IT companies, we felt comfortable doing a good job at what we did. We provided great support. We were very proactive. We thought we were quite innovative by getting in front of first, like the managed service model, as opposed to fixing things when they break. We later thought we were being very innovative by getting in front of the whole cloud revolution, and we actually built our own private cloud within New Zealand, and had one of the, the first platforms for that in the country. But these are just things, right? In terms of strategy, we'd always be happy to help a client when they asked, or give them some ideas when they asked. But when we looked at ourselves, and then when we looked around at the rest of the marketplace, we realized that strategy as a service was sadly lacking in New Zealand. And so, yeah, this was a bit of a revelation to us. So we retooled ourselves for that and decided we needed to have a spirit animal. We needed to have a core focus that was kind of like a guiding principle. You can't make support your guiding principle. Support's just something you do. Some people may make security a guiding principle, but when we look at that as well, we think, well, that's also just a piece of the strategy. So we really wanted to focus on strategy and make it intrinsic to everything else that we did. So everything else we did needed to be integrated and aligned with strategy, not just pieces by themselves. Does that make sense?
Yep. So what were your company values that supported that spirit strategy?
Yeah, so our company values have always been centered on innovation, right? So innovation is always important to us, and that means getting the latest technologies, into good work for our clients when they came out, making good decisions for them, and I think management was also a big company principle for us. So well-managed solutions are really important. It's not just about patching computers, because management means sometimes you decide not to patch something for a specific reason. So, by focusing on management and innovation, I think we always did a really good job. And that's one of the reasons I came to work for Layer 3. But strategy is something that kind of sits on a plane above all of that, ties everything together.
Okay, so what would be a good story where your organization has seen one of your clients pivot in their level of viewing opportunities that are out there in the market?
Yeah. So one of our clients is the police credit union. So they had a number of challenges that they wanted to really wanted to improve their security. They wanted to improve their support. They had some systems that needed to be shifted. So they had a number of channels of things that needed to be done. But when we came in and looked at what the requirements were, we thought what they actually needed more than anything was a good solid strategy to tie all these things together. And create some new opportunities for them as well. So rather than just sort of answering the brief, we sat down and talked to them about strategy. They were an amazing client, so they were really open to good ideas, which is an important ingredient, right? You're not going to get anywhere if someone isn't open to ideas. But we sort of said, hey, what you're asking for isn't the right fit. We think we should go down this road. And really what we ended up doing in the end was a complete, basically a complete rip and replace of their entire IT environment. And they really bought into the idea of looking at this as an IT environment, right? Not just we need antivirus, we need some laptops, we need a firewall, we need a new server, all of these things are just pieces. But if you look at it properly as one environment, they actually implemented an entire environment, and that goes right down to the people involved, to the idea of thinking about security not just as a firewall and some antivirus software, but right down to the human level of going in and conducting security training seminars with their staff, conducting simulated attacks and penetration tests, and making all of this part of what their strategy was. To protect not just their machines and their systems, but their people as well. So that was a really good one where we were able to pick apart what a client was asking for and say, we need to be thinking about everything as a whole here, as a whole environment. And they bought into it. And
So what was the victory out of that?
I think, well, the victory out of that was that they shifted to an entirely different model of having ticket-based support process, security that was what I would think of as two-dimensional, as in protect the border, protect the computer. So I think what we were able to do was create an environment where the staff felt safer working and more secure, more comfortable, doing their jobs, because they had more confidence in the systems they're using, and they knew that they had a human element that they could work things out with quickly. From the management level, I think they felt comfortable that that they were going to be kept in the loop with new things and new technologies. So, for example, when it came time with the lockdown, a lot of those systems that they needed in order to shift to a work from home environment were already in place, because we had been discussing this with them in advance, implementing systems, putting things like Microsoft Teams to use. And once that was put to use, carrying it to different levels of, taking ideas to them on, okay, well, you're starting to have video chats now with Microsoft Teams, for example, and that's great, but there's a lot more that you can do with it to replicate your work environment in a more virtual sense, right? It's not just about video conferences, it's about having a hub, to create, still maintain that sense of cohesion as a team. I don't know how many IT companies are out there talking to their clients about maintaining team cohesion, but it's an important part of it, and technology can support that. You just have to have the right conversations with your clients. It's not just around, oh, okay, we need to set up a VPN to get back into the server so you can access files, and you can have a video chat when you need to. This stuff is maintaining a bare minimum, but
So have you been able to see with that client that they have actually now optimized the level of opportunities that they have and are now more creative than what they were before?
Yes, I believe so. In fact, they've, they want to be able to build support for that. So we're in the process of installing like a new meeting room setup for them that's all based around Microsoft Teams, so that whether people are in the office or away from the office, the idea has shifted. So it's not just in the office work or working from home. It's about working from anywhere. So putting a system in place that will accommodate that.
Okay, that sounds pretty cool. I'm fascinated about this strategy spirit, but we'll come back to that. So tell me about why a degree in English is so valuable to the world of IT.
Yes. Okay. Well, I'll first start by saying that a degree in English is a great option when you're 18 and you're not sure what you want to do yet. But beyond that, for me, I've always been a bookworm. Like, I wear these glasses because I just grew up with my face glued in a book. In Florida, where I was growing up, is the lightning capital of the world. So literally, there's more lightning where I come from in Florida than anywhere else in the world. And
Wow.
I actually used to drive around, and when I was in the backseat of my parents' car, I would read a few words of the book by lightning strike, wait for the next lightning strike to continue on. So I could not pull my face from a book. So I love literature. I love it deeply. And so studying English was a way to basically just, study what I love, without having any other particular direction in mind. But where I'd say that it comes in useful, and I learned this lesson from my first day on the job at DTS, which was my previous job for a long time. So DTS is a internet and voice provider in New Zealand and Australia. When I got my first job at DTS, on my first day, I sat down with the director, and I asked him, why did I get the job? Which I always think is important. It's a question most people don't ask, because they don't think, they're just too happy that they got a job. But if I'm starting a job somewhere, I want to know, why did they choose me? Because if there's something about me that they liked, I want to make sure that I'm putting that foot forward at all times. Be very conscious about, the tools that people see in you. So basically what he told me was that I was up against someone who was more technically qualified than myself, someone who maybe had more of an IT background. But, what he was saying is that, we can teach you the technology, but we can't teach someone who has the technology how to express or communicate that properly if they can already. If you're not skilled in communications, that's a much harder thing to teach than to teach someone what you do, what the company does. And I've kept that with me. And communications, I think, are key for whatever you're doing. You could be the best person in the world at what you do, but no one will ever know that if you can't communicate it properly. So being able to express yourself in a way that's going to make sense to your clients, and more important than that, that's going to, get your clients excited about what you're doing, that's really important. So, the ability to be able to communicate, I think, no matter what you do, is key. So, get good at what you do, but get good at expressing what you do as well.
Do you think the company that you work for is part of the IT industry or the communication industry?
Oh, 100% IT. IT through and through. So, Layer 3 is an IT management and cloud provider. My role at Layer 3 is to, be able to communicate what we do to our clients. And you get our clients, interested in what we do and interested about what they can do, which is even more important. We want our clients to sort of, really be excited about some possibilities for what they can do, not just get too comfortable doing the same thing, because there are always ways that they can improve what they do. And so, one of the joys about my job is getting to sit down with clients and just spit some ideas at them, say like, oh, there's this really cool thing. So you're doing a lot of work on Teams now, which is great. There's a tool called Decisions, which is a Teams add-on, which will actually take minutes for you in your meetings and allow you to convert these things into tasks which are assignable to staff. And maybe that sounds like nothing to them, or maybe if one of our clients is in an organization holding board meetings over Teams, then they might think, wow, that's pretty awesome. We can really put that to use. So yeah, I love being able to have conversations with clients about new ideas.
Do you mind if I just explore what you've said a little bit further?
Absolutely.
Okay. You said that you're part of the IT industry, 100%.
Yeah.
Right? But all through your story, you talk about the necessity to communicate and and as your director said, we can teach you technology, but we cannot teach you something which is innate within you, which is your love of the necessity to communicate. But IT systems are there to process, measure, and communicate with all levels of a business, with all types of data, so that there is greater understanding of the world around us, right?
Mm-hmm.
So your strategy spirit is to create a platform which permits businesses to strategize and to create an environment whereby they can be creative. Yeah. So therefore, I'd put it to you that your industry, that your company is more in the communication industry, and your strategies should be applied to the communication industry rather than to the IT industry.
Yeah, I think I get what you're saying. Now, bear in mind that Layer 3 is a whole company, and we're made of engineers of different levels with different specialties, virtual CIO, project managers. So there's a number of things that are going on under the hood, plus all of the systems that we run, maintain, manage. All of that's going on under the hood, and all of those systems are integrated together. So we've got security, monitoring, service desk, documentation. All of these things actually tie back into like a central hub as well. And all of our staff need to be plugged into all of those. But what I'm saying is that our clients will never properly understand what that stuff means for them if we can't communicate it to them in the language of outcomes, right? In IT, like if you go in and you're looking for a computer and you look at a spec sheet first, and you just see it's a bullet point list of all of the technical features of that machine.
Yeah.
How excited are you going to be to get that machine and put it to use?
Not very.
No. So that's why the spec sheet comes on a separate tab. And what they do first is they tell you a story about what this machine can do, what it will mean for you, what kind of outcomes you can expect, So there's high processing power, there's graphics cards. So imagine like the presentations that you can create on this machine, and you're going to wow your clients by having, the ability to handle multiple applications at the same time. You're going to multitask. You're going to be far more productive. And it's got a fast processor, so it's not going to be slowing you down. Your machine will keep pace with you as fast as you can work. It's going to tell you a story based on outcomes. Too often, IT gets bogged down with the minutia of technical details, and that's where you lose your client. And what I've discovered is that if you lose your client, then nothing's happening. Like if their eyes start glazing over, you're not going to get anything accomplished for them either. So what I'm saying is that the ability to communicate all of those systems, all the IT systems that we manage and maintain in a way that's going to be engaging for a client is an important level that is often forgotten, but really shouldn't be, because, basically you have a linear choice in IT. You can either be a vendor or a partner. What sounds more attractive for you? Do you want to be a vendor for a client or a partner to a client?
A partner.
A partner. That's right, because partners accomplish things together. Vendors supply something and they're replaceable. They can be maybe done. There's nothing exciting about being a vendor. Vendors just sell things.
Yeah.
Partners accomplish things, and that's what we want to do. Is when we come into a client, it's not. There's been more than one occasion where we've just said we're not the right provider for you, because that's just not what we do. What we want to do is be able to sit down and create a situation where the business is aligned with the IT and the IT is aligned with the business. So it's cohesive. And then from that, we can create a strategy. We can build a roadmap, so we can actually see, okay, there are mundane things in IT, and we want to take care of all those and make them consistent. Because once you have that consistency, that's like the bottom layer that you can build other things on top of. If you don't have a solid foundation, whatever, you can't build anything that's going to stand up. So we take care of that foundation, but then we want to look ahead. We don't want clients to get hit upside the head with demands and costs over time. So we need to look at that stuff in advance. So we'll plan 36 months in advance. So even something mundane like, the client needs a new switch. Well, maybe we're going to plug that into Q4 next year. So they know that that's coming, but then it's planned in advance and we don't need to keep worrying about it. That doesn't need to be the headspace that we take up with them when we have a chance to sit down. Instead, we can sit down and talk about something more productive, and look at some new ideas. And it takes work, it takes time, and it has to be dynamic. The other thing you cannot do is you can't just create a strategy and then stick it on the shelf. And that happens a lot of times as well, is someone might bring in a professional who's really good at what they do. They write up a brilliant strategy. Someone looks at it and be like, well, that's great. It goes into a folder somewhere, and then it never gets looked at again. A strategy needs to be like this living, breathing thing that you keep coming back to, that you're adjusting dynamically, because whose business now is going to be the same as it is 36 months from now. Things change over time. So you need to make sure that the business strategy and the IT strategy are aligned together over time, so that they can support each other and push each other forward.
So how long do you work with a client stroke customer? Do you see the business layer 3 as being an integral part of your client's onward growth, or are you a business that goes in and says, look, we can set up the structure for you, we can set up the philosophies for you, here's the plan, we can set up the engineering seat for you, we can set up the backup systems for you, done, deal, out the door, gone? Hi, I trust you enjoyed the last episode of Are We on the Right Track for understanding the opportunities that IT can provide to a business for its growth. And you gained a lot from Daniel Bowen's commentary. Daniel actually works for a company called Layer 3, and they're based down in Wellington. So we'll be giving you details below as to how you can actually contact that company if you wish to engage with them further and to actually have the opportunity of obtaining growth from your business by understanding your IT systems even better. If you wish to contact me at Right Track, please phone me on 027 289 3162 or 09 239 3830, or you can actually obtain a copy of our free monthly newsletter by registering with our address bit.ly/righttrack full stop. Or you can go to our website, which is www.ritetrack.co.nz. Right Track is spelled RITETRACK. All the details are below for you. So I would also invite you to follow on with the next episode, which will be launched next week, where we'll be actually talking to Daniel again and following on with the conversation. And we'll be looking at the subject of business continuity. We'll be looking at the challenges that business continuity in this new normal, in this new remote environment for businesses will actually create. We'll be looking at the supply chain management. We'll be looking at the necessity to pivot and change our mindset. We'll be looking at how we can actually obtain growth from having a better understanding of our IT systems in our business. So until next time, I look forward to catching up with you again. And you've got my phone numbers. We'll talk soon. See you later. You have a good week. Bye.